In 1941, German generals laughed. They called the Red Army a rotten structure, a house of cards filled with disloyal troops who would surrender at first sight. 1 year later, in the ruins of Stalingrad, they weren't laughing anymore. They were trapped, starving, and being systematically destroyed by the very men who refused to die. June 20th, 1941. The Wolfsschanze, Rassenburg, East Prussia. The air inside the bunker is stale, thick with cigar smoke and the dry scent of paper maps. It's humid, and the forest night outside presses in, but here, under the dim electric light, a new world is being drawn. Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel, Chief of the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, OKW, nods dutifully, his monocle catching the light. Adolf Hitler is pacing, his voice a low, confident rasp that fills the concrete room. He stabs a finger at the vast map of the Soviet Union splayed across the heavy oak table. "It is a house of cards, gentlemen," he insists, his eyes alight. "A rotten structure, built on a foundation of Slavic incompetence and Jewish terror. The people, the Volker, they despise their masters in the Kremlin. The Ukrainians, the Balts, the Caucasians, they will greet our soldiers as liberators." A low, knowing chuckle ripples through the assembled officers. General Franz Halder, Chief of the Army General Staff, allows himself a thin smile. His own intelligence reports confirm it. The Red Army is a joke. Its officer corps was hollowed out by Stalin's purges just 3 years prior. Its troops are a racial conglomerate, a disloyal patchwork of ethnicities who have no love for the Muscovite Bolsheviks. "Our reports," Halder interjects, "indicate that political commissars must stand behind the frontline troops with machine guns just to force them to advance. What happens when a real army, a German army, hits them? They will not just surrender, they will defect. This is the consensus. This is the truth. The Wehrmacht, the most professional, victorious army on earth, is not preparing for a war. It is preparing for a rapid, surgical collapse. The operation, Barbarossa, is designed to take weeks, not months. Kick in the door, Hitler says, and the whole rotten structure will come crashing down. 2 days later, June 22nd, 1941, 3:15. You are a Lancer in Army Group Center, your knuckles white on the grip of your Kar 98K rifle. You've been told for weeks that the man on the other side of that border is an Untermensch, a subhuman, led by commissars and thugs, waiting for the chance to throw down his antiquated Mosin Nagant rifle and join you. Then, the world ends. Artillery Feuer. A 1,000-mile front erupts in a singular, deafening roar. 10,000 German artillery pieces fire as one. Stuka dive bombers scream out of the dawn, their sirenced Jericho trumpets ripping the air. Your half-track lurches forward, and you cross the border. For the first few weeks, the laughter from the Wolfsschanze seems prophetic. It is a collapse. The Soviet Air Force is annihilated on the ground. Panzer divisions, led by men like Guderian and Hoth, slice through the Soviet lines like hot knives. The numbers are staggering, biblical. 300,000 Soviet soldiers encircled and captured at Minsk. 660,000 at Kiev. Another 650,000 at Vyazma. You see the prisoners. They are dazed, often shoeless, some holding rifles from the last World War. They look starved, beaten, and utterly lost. And among them, thousands of Ukrainians and Balts do cheer. Some even volunteer to help the Wehrmacht, becoming Hilfswillig or Hiwis drivers, cooks, anti-partisan auxiliaries. The German generals are vindicated. Halder writes in his war diary in early July. It is thus probably no overstatement to say that the campaign against Russia has been won in 14 days. But amid the triumphant reports, there are other stories, whispers from the Panzergruppen and the Einsatzgruppen, stories that don't fit the narrative. Near the border fortress of Brest-Litovsk, a tiny garrison was supposed to be cleared in hours. They fought for 9 days. When German shock troops finally broke into the cellars, they found the last defenders a handful of starving, ammunitionless Red Army, men launching hopeless bayonet charges, screaming, "For Stalin." For the motherland. At Smolensk, entire Soviet divisions, completely cut off and with no hope of rescue, did not surrender. They counterattacked. They fought until their tanks were burning wrecks and their trenches were filled with their own dead. The German officers dismiss it. This isn't loyalty, they reason. It's Asiatic fanaticism. It's drunken barbarism. It's the commissar's pistol at their back. The idea that these subhumans might be fighting for a patriotic ideal is ludicrous. It's laughable. And so, the Wehrmacht rolls on, deeper into the endless Russian steppe, driving toward Moscow. The laughter in the officers' mess is still loud, but perhaps, just perhaps, a little more strained. They have mistaken the enemy's desperation for disloyalty. They have not yet understood that they are not fighting a political ideology. They are fighting Russia, and they are heading for a city on the Volga where that mistake will cost them everything. December 5th, 1941. A snow-filled ditch near Klin, 50 miles northwest of Moscow. The laughter has frozen to death. You are a grenadier now, huddled in a pit scraped from the earth, which is hard as iron. The temperature is -40 degrees. The iconic grey-green Feldgrau uniform is useless. Your breath turns to ice on the wool balaclava. The grease in your MG-34 machine gun has turned to wax. Your comrades' toes are black, with frostbite inside their leather jackboots. The House of Cards did not fall. A new sound haunts the pine forests. The guttural "Ura." It comes from men who belong in this cold. Fresh Siberian divisions, draped in white snowsuits, suddenly appear out of the blizzard. They are riding T-34 tanks. Tanks that your 37mm anti-tank guns, the Heeresanklopfgerät, the army door knocker, can't even scratch. The disloyal rabble, the Asiatic horde you were told would flee, is attacking. They are attacking with a suicidal fury you cannot comprehend. They are not fighting for Marx or Lenin. They are fighting for Moskva. The Wehrmacht, for the first time in its existence, is not advancing. It is running. The retreat from Moscow is a catastrophe, a rout saved from total annihilation only by Hitler's maniacal stand-fast order. The myth of German invincibility is shattered, buried under 50-foot snowdrifts. Spring, 1942. The Wolfsschanze. The mood is sour. The generals who laughed are now grim. Halder is quiet. Hitler is furious. The quick victory is gone. This is now a Vernichtungskrieg, a war of annihilation, and Germany is caught in a war of attrition it cannot win against Russia's endless manpower. But the central delusion, the belief in Soviet inferiority, remains. It simply changes shape. Hitler paces before a new map. The failure at Moscow, he rationalizes, was due to the winter, to hesitation. The solution is not to respect the enemy, but to strike harder and smarter. Moscow is a distraction, he declares, his voice low. The heart of Bolshevik power is not in their politics, it is in their economy. His finger bypasses Moscow and stabs south, toward the Caspian Sea. It is here, the oil. This is the genesis of Case Blue, Fall Blau. The new plan is audacious. Army Group South will be split in two. Army Group A will drive deep into the Caucasus to seize the vital oil fields of Maykop, Grozny, and the ultimate prize, Baku. This will fuel the Reich and, critically, starve the Red Army, which gets 90% of its oil from this region. Army Group B, anchored by the most powerful, battle-hardened force in the Wehrmacht, the 6th Army will advance east to the Volga River. Their mission? Secure the flank of the Caucasus operation. And in doing so, they will take a city, a sprawling industrial hub, a key artery for supplies moving north from the Caspian. It is a symbolic target, a city that bears the name of the man in the Kremlin. Stalingrad. To the German High Command, it is just a dot on the map, a tactical objective to be cleared in a matter of days, perhaps a week. June 28, 1942. The summer offensive begins. It feels like 1941 all over again. The 6th Army, 270,000 men strong, led by the precise, meticulous General Friedrich Paulus, punches through the Soviet defenses. The sky is black with Stukas. The The Panzers roll across the sun-baked, endless steppe. The Red Army seems to melt away. They are retreating, just like they did last year. Thousands of prisoners are taken. The old jokes return to the Lancer columns. Ivan is running again. He's forgotten how to fight. The delusion is back, stronger than ever. The Soviets are not standing and fighting because they can't. They are too cowardly, too disorganized. They are beaten. By late August, the vanguard of Paulus's army, the 16th Panzer Division, has done it. The Lancers pile out of their half-tracks, their faces caked in yellow dust. They walk to the edge of a high cliff, and there it is. Below them, a mile-wide ribbon of silver water, shimmering in the heat, the Volga. And on its western bank, stretching for 20 miles, a city of factories and wooden houses, choking under a pall of smoke. The Luftwaffe is already overhead. The first bombs are falling. The officers check their maps. This is it. Stalingrad. They estimate the city will be secured by September 10th. August 23rd, 1942, 18. The skies above Stalingrad. You are a bombardier in a Heinkel 111, part of Luftflotte 4. Below you, the city is a map. The order is simple. Totale Zerstörung, total destruction. Your bomb bay doors open. The stick of high explosives and incendiaries tumbles out, whistling down into the sprawling suburbs. You bank hard, and through the plexiglass, you watch. You don't see soldiers. You don't see disloyal troops. You see wooden houses, factories, and apartment blocks erupt in a tidal wave of fire and smoke. The first wave of 600 bombers is followed by another and another. The asphalt on the roads melts. The fire is so intense, it creates its own wind, a firestorm that sucks the oxygen from the air. The smoke plume rises 10,000 feet. When the raid is over, 40,000 civilians are dead. The city, 90% wooden houses, is an ocean of flame. Back at the German airbase, the crews are triumphant. It is finished, they say. Nothing can live in that. We have bombed them back to the Stone Age. September 13th, 1942. The ruins of Stalingrad's city centre. General Paulus launches his first grand assault. He has 100,000 men, 2,300 guns, 500 tanks, and total command of the sky. His target is the city centre and the main railway station. You are a Sturmpioneer of the 71st Infantry Division. You are an expert. You carry a satchel charge, a flamethrower, and your MP-40 submachine gun. You are a master of urban warfare. This burning, rubble-strewn city is just another job. Your squad moves into the shattered remnants of an apartment building. The air is thick with pulverized brick. It smells of fire, cordite, and death. Rusen, raus, you scream. Surrender. The silence that answers is heavier than the smoke. You kick in the splintered remains of a door, and the world explodes. The tock-tock-tock of a PPD-40 submachine gun erupts from a hole in the floorboards. From a pile of rubble that looked like just rubble, a Maxim machine gun opens up. A Siberian, a man you thought was dead, leaps from the ruins, his ura, more of a scream than a word, a bayonet fixed to his rifle. This isn't an army, it's a nest of ghosts. The German generals, Paulus included, are bewildered. Their doctrine is failing. Blitzkrieg relies on Bewegung, movement. It relies on combined arms tanks, infantry, artillery, and Stukas working in symphony. But in Stalingrad, there is no movement. There is no symphony. The rubble, the very destruction the Luftwaffe created, has become the Soviets' single greatest defensive asset. The Panzers are useless. They are channeled into narrow, rubble-choked streets where they are blind. A Soviet soldier, a tank hunter, crouches in a sewer grate, waiting for the tank to pass over him. He doesn't have an anti-tank gun. He has a Molotov cocktail and a Panzerschreck if he's lucky, or just a bundle of grenades. The tank burns, blocking the street for the next tank. The Stukas are useless. The artillery is useless. General Vasily Chuikov, the new commander of the Soviet 62nd Army, has arrived. He is the son of a peasant, hard as the steppe itself. His headquarters is a bunker on the Volga bank, constantly under fire. He realizes he cannot beat the Germans in a conventional fight. So he gives one simple, terrifying order: hug the enemy. Soviet defenders are ordered to set up their machine guns, their mortar pits, their sniper nests, as close to the German lines as possible. 50 meters, 30 meters. In the next room. The fighting becomes a hand-to-hand brawl. The Germans call it Rattenkrieg, the Rat War. It is fought not for streets or districts, but for floors, for rooms, for sewer tunnels. A German lancer writes home, "We have captured the kitchen of the bread factory. We are fighting for the living room." The battle for the third floor of the Univermag department store has been raging for 5 days. The front line is a staircase. The disloyal rabble the Germans expected to find has vanished. In its place are men who fight for ideals the Germans simply cannot process. They are fighting for Stalin, yes, but more they are fighting for Rodina, the motherland. They are fighting for the pile of bricks that was once their home. They are fighting with a fanaticism that borders on the insane. German shock troops, the best in the world, take a building. They clear it, room by room. It costs them half their platoon. That night, a handful of Soviet soldiers, covered in soot and blood, crawl back through the sewers, reoccupy the basement, and the fight begins all in the morning. The German Sixth Army is being bled white. Not by a superior army, but by 1,000 tiny cuts, inflicted by men who have nothing left to lose, who have decided that this line, this pile of burning rubble on the Volga, is where the war stops. October 14th, 1942. The Barricade, Gun Factory. You are a lieutenant with the 305th Infantry Division. You are a new arrival, fresh-faced and horrified. Your division was flown in to deliver the final blow to the stubborn factory district. This isn't war, it's an industrial nightmare. The factory is a skeleton of twisted steel girders and shattered concrete, half a mile long. The whistle of wind through its bones is punctuated by the crack of sniper fire and the sudden, deafening roar of a T-34 tank, a tank that is inside the factory hall. Your orders are to advance 300 meters. It feels like 300 miles. You wave your platoon forward. They don't run. They creep, moving from one pile of mangled machinery to the next. The ground is littered with German and Soviet dead, indistinguishable under a layer of soot and frost. A machine gun opens up, not from the front, but from a gantry crane above you. 3 of your men are cut down. You dive behind a colossal, cold boiler. You hear a sound, a cough. A Soviet soldier is 10 feet away, in the same pile of rubble. He is wounded. His face is a mask of black grime, his eyes wide and burning. He doesn't raise his rifle. He pulls the pin on an RGD-33 grenade, holds it to his chest, and waits. You scream and roll away just as the blast rips the air. This is the Barricade. This is the Red October steel plant. This is the Dzerzhinsky tractor factory. The fighting here is not done by armies, but by small storm groups of 6 to 8 men, armed with grenades, knives, and sharpened shovels. The disloyal troops the generals in Berlin laughed about are here, and they are dying where they stand. But they are not just soldiers. The men and women who worked in these factories are now fighting in them. They are repairing tanks in one hall while a hand-to-hand battle rages in the next. They are pouring molten steel and then picking up a rifle to defend the foundry. Across the city, in a quiet square, stands a 4-story apartment block. It is designated on German maps as Objective 43. To the Red Army, it is simply Dom Pavlova, Pavlov's house. For 58 days, a single reinforced platoon, led by Sergeant Yakov Pavlov, holds this building. You are a German panzer grenadier tasked with taking it. It is an obsession. Your commanders are furious. How can a single, shattered building defy the entire Sixth Army? You assault it at dawn. After a Stuka raid, the building is a ruin. But as you cross the 100 yards of open square Dead Man's Square, the ruin comes alive. A Maxim gun barks from a third-floor window. An anti-tank rifle PTRS-41 fires from the basement, its 14.5 millimeters round, slamming into your supporting tank and shattering its track. Mortar rounds, fired from the roof, begin to fall. It's impossible. The garrison is less than 30 men. They are a patchwork: Russians, Ukrainians, Georgians, Kazakhs. The racial conglomerate that was supposed to fracture is holding this house against battalions. They have dug a trench to a sewer line for supplies. They have knocked holes in the walls to create firing positions. They have civilians, women, and children hiding in the basement, whom they protect. You fall back, dragging your wounded, leaving your dead. You will try again tomorrow, and the day after, and you will fail every time. Pavlov's house will remain in Soviet hands until the battle is over. Further south, a different kind of monument looms: the giant, concrete grain elevator. A small group of Soviet defenders, perhaps 40 men, some of them sailors from the Volga flotillare inside. They have no water, low ammunition, and one order: hold. The Germans surround it. They bring up flamethrowers. The Flammenwerfers send jets of liquid fire into the concrete silos. The grain inside ignites. The air is filled with the smell of burning wheat and burning men. The Soviets don't surrender. The Germans storm the first floor. The defenders move to the second. The battle is fought in total darkness, in choking, fiery smoke. Men stab each other with bayonets, feeling for a warm body in the blackness. When the German commander finally takes the smouldering shell, he is stunned. He finds fewer than 40 bodies. His own regiment has suffered over 1,000 casualties taking this one structure. He writes in his report, "The enemy inside fought with a fanaticism that can only be born of Asiatic, primitive minds." He is wrong. It is not a primitive mind. It is a new mind. It is the mind of a soldier who has seen his city turn to ash, his family killed by the bombers, and has been pushed, step by step, back to the final barrier, the Volga. The river is only 200 yards wide at some points, but for the men of the 62nd Army, it has become an ocean. There is nowhere left to retreat. The slogan is born, and it is repeated in every trench, every crater, every burning factory hall. There is no land for us beyond the Volga. Paulus's 6th Army, the victors of France, the masters of blitzkrieg, are being systematically, building by building, destroyed. They have reached the river, but they do not control the city. And as they huddle in the ruins, the first delicate snowflakes of the Russian winter begin to fall. November 8th, 1942. A frozen crater in the Red October steel plant. You are a Lancer of the 51st Army Corps. You have been in this city for 60 days. You are no longer a soldier. You are a starving, lice-ridden, half-mad scavenger. Your Feldwebel sergeant is dead, picked off by a sniper you never saw. Your best friend bled out in a cellar last week from a grenade. Your summer uniform is in tatters, patched with sacking. You have not washed in 2 months. Your feet are wrapped in paper, stuffed into boots that are 2 sizes too big. The cold is a physical enemy, a constant, gnawing pain that has seeped into your bones. The temperature is dropping to -20 Celsius. The fight is over. The grand assault is dead. The final push, ordered in October, cost your division half its remaining men. Now, you don't fight for the factory. You fight for a dry spot in a basement, for a rat to roast, for a handful of snow to melt for water. The laughter from June 1941. It is a fever dream. The Untermensch you were told about is a ghost. He is the sniper who kills your ration party from a dead building. He is the mortar team that drops a single, perfect round into your foxhole. He is the shadow that whispers, "Za Rodenu," before he slits a sentry's throat. Meanwhile, in a bunker at Gumrak Airfield, General Friedrich Paulus pores over his maps. The city is 90% in hand. He reports this to Hitler. But that 10% is a bloody, unbreakable line along the Volga's edge. Trykov's 62nd Army is a skeleton, but it will not be broken. Paulus's men are exhausted. His fuel and ammunition are critically low. His panzers are immobilized. He has lost over 70,000 men, dead or wounded, just to take the ruins. And he has a growing, terrifying unease about his flanks. To secure the drive to Stalingrad, the German High Command had to stretch its lines thin. The flanks, north and south of the city, are not held by the 6th Army. They are held by their allies. the Romanian Third and Fourth Armies, and the Italian Eighth Army. To the German generals, this was logical. The flanks were quiet. And besides, they thought, what could the Soviets do? The Red Army was spent. It had thrown all its reserves into the meat grinder of the city. The German intelligence chief, Galen, confidently reported that the Soviets were incapable of any large-scale offensive. They had no men left. It is perhaps the single greatest, most arrogant intelligence failure of the war. November 19th, 1942, 7:20. The Romanian Third Army Sector, north of Stalingrad. You are a Romanian conscript, huddled in a trench dug from the frozen earth. A thick, icy fog blankets the steppe. You cannot see 10 feet. Your German advisors have given you obsolete Czech anti-tank guns. You are cold, you are scared, and you hear a sound, a deep, guttural rumble. It is not the wind. It is not distant artillery. It is the ground shaking. At 7:30, the fog is ripped apart by a light. 3,500 Soviet guns and Katyusha rocket launchers open fire as one. The artillery barrage is so dense, so terrifyingly total, it sounds like the sky is being torn in two. You see your comrades' bodies vaporized. The earth erupts. Then, out of the smoke and the fog, they come. Not in dozens, not in hundreds, but in thousands. A wave of white camouflaged Soviet T-34 tanks, followed by 1 million Mentha fresh, full-strength armies of General Georgy Zhukov, the man who saved Moscow. This is Operation Uranus. The Red Army, the disloyal, Asiatic, rabble, has just launched a perfectly coordinated, massive, combined arms pincer movement. The Romanian Third Army simply ceases to exist. It is not defeated, it is disintegrated. The T-34 seconds do not stop. They race south, 50 miles in a single day, their guns firing, their tracks crushing everything. To the south, 24 hours later, the second pincer attacks the Romanian Fourth Army. The result is the same, a total, catastrophic collapse. The German generals who laughed at the racial conglomerate are now being torn apart by one. Zhukov's army is a mix of Russians, Siberians, Kazakhs, and Mongols, all moving with a singular, brilliant purpose. 4 days later, November 23rd, 1942, the village of Kalach-na-Donu, a Soviet tank commander from the northern pincer, his T-34 covered in frost, sees another tank approaching through the snow. He squints. It is also a T-34. It is the vanguard of the southern pincer. The jaws of the trap have just snapped shut. Inside the ruins of Stalingrad, General Paulus receives the frantic radio message. Enemy tanks, Kalach, we are surrounded. The hunter is now the prey. The entire German Sixth Army, 270,000 men, the most powerful and arrogant army in the Reich, is trapped. The men who came to take the city are now besieged in the city. November 24th, 1942, the Wolfsschanze. Hitler is pacing, his face a mask of purple fury. The telex from Paulus is in his hand, army encircled. The generals who laughed are now silent, their faces pale. Keitel is wringing his hands. Halder is gone, fired for defeatism months ago. The meeting is chaos. How could this happen? How could the rotten structure snap shut around them? Then, a voice, booming with false confidence. It is Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring. My Führer. He blusters, stepping forward, his uniform straining. Leave it to my Luftwaffe. I personally guarantee the supply of the Sixth Army from the air. It will be a triumph of German will. The generals of the army staff are agriast. They know the numbers. Lieutenant General Kurt Zeitzler, the new chief of staff, interrupts. My Führer, the Sixth Army requires a minimum of 750 tons per day. The Luftwaffe does not have the transport planes, the fuel, or the airfields. It is impossible. Hitler doesn't listen to Zeitzler. He looks at Göring. He wants to believe. An airlift means Paulus doesn't have to retreat. An airlift means his stand fast order is not a death sentence. You are certain, Reichsmarschall? The Luftwaffe will not fail. Goering lies. The decision is made. The Sixth Army is forbidden to break out. They will be supplied. They will hold. The Kesselt Cauldrones sealed by the Führer's own delusion. December 10th, 1942. A frozen cellar in the Uranus department store. Stalingrad. You are one of the 270,000 men trapped in the pocket. The laughter is a memory from another life. The arrogance is a bitter joke. Your world is now 30 miles long and 20 miles wide, a frozen, wind-swept moonscape of shell craters and skeletal ruins. The temperature is -30 Celsius. There is no more talk of disloyal troops. The Rus is the only one with food, with warmth, with ammunition. He is the master of this world. You are the one who is disloyal to your own survival, forced to obey an order from a man in a bunker 1,000 miles away. You are starving. Your ration is 100 grams of Breda slice as thin as your thumb, made mostly of sawdust and sunflower husks and a cup of thin, greasy soup. You have eaten the horses, all 12,000 of them. Their frozen, butchered carcasses litter the streets. You have eaten the dogs. You have eaten the rats. The word cannibalismus is whispered in the cellars. You wait for Goering. You huddle in your crater and listen. Not for the Ura of the attacking Soviet, but for the drone, the thrum of a Junkers Ju-52. When it comes, you weep with relief. Our daily bread. A man cries, his voice cracking. Then you see the reality. The plan is slow, clumsy. Flying coffins are swarmed by Soviet La-5 fighters. The sky is dotted with a ring of 88mm flak guns, Soviet flak guns. You watch as a Ju-52, trailing black smoke, cartwheels into the snow. The planes that make it through the shooting gallery drop their canisters. But what is inside? You risk your life, crawling under machine gun fire to a container. You pry it open, your fingers numb. It is not bread, it is not ammunition. It is 500 left boots. It is sacks of pepper. It is 4 cases of communion wine. It is propaganda leaflets. On the best day, Goering's Luftwaffe manages 150 tons. Most days, it is less than 50. It is a drop of water on a hot stone. December 19th, 1942. The southern edge of the Kessel. A new sound. A miracle. It is the deep, familiar whump-whump of German 88 seconds. But it is coming from the outside. You are delirious, frostbitten, but you crawl to a vantage point. On the horizon, 30 miles away, you can see the flashes. It is him. It is Field Marshal Erich von Manstein. Operation Winter Storm, Wintergewitter. A relief column of Panzers is punching its way toward you. The men in the pocket are electrified. They are coming. Manstein's 57th Panzer Corps, in a feat of arms, has battled to within visual range. He radios Paulus. The time is now. You must break out. Launch. Thunderclap. This is the moment. The fate of 270,000 men hangs on one decision. General Paulus, the model officer, the man who follows orders, radios the Wolfsschanze. He requests permission. Hitler's voice screams back over the static. 9. You will hold Stalingrad. You will not retreat one step. Paulus obeys. He tells Manstein he cannot move. He doesn't have the fuel for his tanks, the fuel Goering never sent. The men on the southern perimeter watch in unspeakable agony as the flashes on the horizon grow dimmer. The Soviet Second Guards Army has counterattacked, and Manstein, his panzers overextended, is forced to fall back. The miracle is over. The hope is dead. As Christmas Eve arrives, the last radio message from the pocket is broadcast to Germany. It is not a call for help. It is the men of the Sixth Army, in a ruined church, singing Still Nacht, Silent Night. It is a message of their own death. January 8th, 1943. Pitomnik Airfield, inside the Kessel. The last airfield is falling. You are a Feldgendarm, a military policeman, but there is no law. There is only animal survival. The runway is a graveyard of wrecked Ju-52 seconds. You watch as a final, overloaded Heinkel. He-111, crammed with 30 wounded men, tries to take off. It is the last plane, the last one. Men are clinging to its wings. They are screaming. You watch as they are thrown off. tumbling into the snow as the plane struggles into the air, a final lifeline to a world that has forgotten you. Then, silence. The thrum-thrum of the engines fades. The pocket is sealed. Completely. The men around you are no longer soldiers. They are lichen, walking corpses. Their faces are grey and gaunt, their eyes sunk deep into their skulls. They have Stalingrad sickness, a hollow, 1,000-yard stare. They move in slow motion, wrapped in filthy blankets, rags, and scraps of carpet. Discipline is a memory. Men huddle together in frozen, excrement-filled cellars, dying of typhus, dysentery, and starvation. And then, a new sound, a loudspeaker. It's coming from the Soviet lines, just 100 yards away. A voice, in perfect, accented German, echoes across the ruins. Soldiers of the Sixth Army, your situation is hopeless. You are surrounded. You are starving. Further resistance is madness. We offer you honorable surrender. We offer you bread. We offer you life. Every soldier who surrenders will be. A German Oberleutnant, his face a mask of black frostbite, rises from a crater. It is a trick, he screams, his voice cracking. He fires his MP-40 at the loudspeaker until it clicks empty. The Soviets, led by General Rokossovsky, have just offered Paulus terms. Paulus radios Hitler. The reply is instant. Surrender is forbidden. The Sixth Army will hold its positions to the last man and the last bullet. You will perform your historic duty. January 10th, 1943-85. The historic duty begins. The Soviets unleash Operation Ring, Koltso. It is not a battle, it is an execution. 5,000 Soviet artillery pieces, 300 tanks, and 7 full armies well fed, warm, and thirsty for revenge open fire on the Kessel. The German front disintegrates in hours. The frozen, starving men you are with have no heavy weapons. Their mortars, their artillery, they have no ammunition, they have no fuel. You see men who have not eaten in a week try to lift a 20-pound MG-34. They collapse. You see men stand up, throw away their useless Kar-9 8K rifles, and simply walk toward the Soviet lines, hands raised. The pocket is split in two. The resistance collapses into a series of tiny, isolated cellars, each one a tomb. January 30th, 1943. The cellar of the Uwe department store. This is the headquarters of the Sixth Army. It is dark, filled with the stench of death and the groans of the wounded. General Friedrich Paulus is sitting on a cot. He is a broken man. He has just received his last radio message from the Wolfsschanze. It is a promotion. Adolf Hitler has made him a General Feldmarschall. It is not an honor. It is an order. No German field marshal, ever, has been taken alive. It is a demand, wrapped in velvet, to put his pistol to his head. Paulus looks at his adjutant. He looks at the wounded men dying on the floor. He has followed every order. He has sacrificed 270,000 men for this historic duty. He will not. January 31st, 1943-7. A young Soviet lieutenant, F.M. Yelchenko, and his platoon cautiously pick their way through the rubble of the Uwe Mag. They find the headquarters. They kick open the cellar door. The light from their torches falls on the scene. German officers, in their ruined, lice-ridden uniforms, and among them a tall, gaunt man who stands up, his face pale. "Do not shoot," the translator says, his voice shaking. "The General Feldmarschall wishes to surrender." The Soviet soldiers stop. They stare. They cannot believe it. The disloyal troops, the rotten structure, the Asiatic horde that was supposed to collapse in 14 days, has just captured the first field marshal in German history. The laughter from the Wolfsschanze has finally, completely, and eternally died. When Paulus and his staff are led out into the freezing daylight, the Battle of Stalingrad is over. 91,000 German ghosts are all that remain of the great Sixth Army. As they are marched into captivity, past the endless columns of triumphant, fur-hatted Soviet soldiers, they see them, the men who refused to surrender, the men who held the grain elevator, and Pavlov's house, and the factories, and the cellars. The impossible tenacity of the Soviet defender was not fanaticism. It was a patriotic fury born in the ruins of their homes, and in that fury, they had not just saved their city, they had broken the back of the Wehrmacht and turned the tide of the Second World War.